remember like seeing all this snow in Connecticut and New York, and I was like, she's gotta get on a plane right now. She's gotta get on a plane right now.
Why are you on the set?
This is Krystle.
This is Krystle.
She's our surrogate.
Yes.
Number 1.
Yes.
Before that, number 0, she's our friend.
She's our friend. Yeah. Before that, she's our friend.
Let's just tell the story, because I don't know that we've actually ever told the story in video, like how you ended up carrying our baby. Do you
Let's hear from your perspective.
I'd like to hear from your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think our perspectives are, I think you just think I was more intoxicated than I was. We were at our friend Kate's birthday party, and I was asking them about their surrogacy process, and they had told me that their surrogate had just fallen through, and I was just like so heartbroken for them because I knew this process had just been such a long road already. And so I was like, maybe I should try and do it. And Brett was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, we thought you were kind of not joking, but I think, you know, we were desperate kind of at that moment, and you said it, and we're like, we're gonna call you tomorrow. If you're serious, we're gonna.
Is that how you were called in? Did we do that?
Yeah. And I was like, okay.
Okay, yeah.
And then I remember I was like, I mean, I have to have like a serious conversation with my husband because it's a commitment for both of us. But yeah, I came home from that trip and we had a discussion about it, and then I told them like, yeah, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, so your first step, it sounded like, was to talk to your husband. Is that correct?
Right, yes. So I mean, we of course have 2 children of our own, so he has seen me pregnant, and he he knows how much I don't like being pregnant and how hard my pregnancies were for me. So I knew that it was a conversation that we needed to have and make sure that he was okay with it, because I knew it would affect him. Me and him talked about it, and we talked about it with our kids and like tried to explain it to them the best we could to see what they thought, and everybody was on board with it and was like, okay, yeah. So we started the process. I mean, I don't think I was really surprised necessarily by anything. It all seemed like, okay, that makes sense. Like, I didn't necessarily know all of the steps that we had to take, but when I heard the steps that we had to take, I was like, that makes sense. So
I remember, like, we thought it was going to be pretty, like, great, you're going to fly up to Connecticut, which is where our clinic was, and we're going to do an embryo transfer, and boop, you're going to be pregnant.
We had that trip planned, well, because we had to do the pre-screening with Dr. Leanderis and, you know, make sure that I was medically qualified to be able to do it, and psychologically that I passed, I forget what they call it, but like basically like a psychological type of evaluation, and
a criminal background check too.
Yes.
Let's not forget.
So we had to pass like all of those steps, and then we were like, okay, let's schedule our date to go like get all of these tests done and have our like day of like, I forget what they
call it. A team day.
Team day.
Yes. Yep. But that was scheduled, I think it was, we scheduled it in January or February for March.
I think it was like March 20th or 28th. It was in the 20s, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't it at the end of the month?
It was towards the end of March.
And we all know what happened then.
And like Broadway shut down like Thursday the week before that or something, or Friday, like when we flew to Key West.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, is this gonna happen?
Yeah.
So we waited up until close to that first team day date. Then we had to push the date. I think we pushed it to, didn't we push it to like an April date?
I think it was like late April, early May.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, this will only be a couple of weeks, right?
The pandemic will be over.
Yeah. And then it just kept getting
you kept
pushed.
pushing it until, what was the date that you actually went?
I think it was October.
Right.
It was towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they had stopped doing, I mean, I think they had stopped doing any sort of like embryo transfers or progressing with anybody who wasn't already in like the middle of an embryo transfer. So we were just kind of playing the waiting game for when are they going to start doing it again. And I'm wanting to say it was like October. October.
I
Before they
honestly,
finally started doing them again.
But then we couldn't go with you.
right.
Because of restrictions. I was the only one allowed to go.
Yeah.
It was only me
Yeah.
She flew up from where do you live?
from Orlando.
Orlando.
So
So
Connecticut. And
this is
during
like
the
when
pandemic.
we were like, wow, she's a really good friend.
And this is also, you know, just to also, I mean, I know that we all know this, but this is like in the height of the pandemic, right? You know, when everyone is really kind of scared to go outside still. So, I mean, it was a big deal to ask her to go on an
fly.
airplane,
Yeah.
at least in my point of view. You know, that's what I.
Right.
So,
What was that experience like going for a team day to be a surrogate without the people you're being a surrogate for?
right.
It was interesting. We knew it was going to be a different experience from, you know, when I had my children, because obviously different dads. But for me, it was just like just the whole being alone through my pregnancies with my children. Like my husband was always there and he was always allowed to be there because there was no pandemic back then. And so it was an interesting experience to have to go through it all by myself. But it was more like, I know you guys like convinced me to fly because I was determined to drive.
Yeah, she was going to drive.
Because I was so afraid to get on a plane, and I was like, I don't want to be stuck on a plane for, you know, however long. And
We didn't change your mind until a few days before.
Yeah.
well, it wasn't even you that changed my mind, it was the weather.
Oh, right.
Because there was a
snow.
snowstorm.
Oh, that's right. There was
That's
a
right.
snowstorm. Oh, wait. It gets even more exciting. Now I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Wait. This is for the team day or for the transfer that I'm thinking of? Because we remember we changed your flight. Anyways,
Well, because they didn't end up doing the team day. The team day we ended up technically doing virtually. So we did it all like from, like you guys were, I
yes.
think you were in Texas by that point,
Yeah,
weren't
yeah,
you?
we were.
So I think you guys were in Texas, Jacob and I were in Orlando, and then Dr. Landeris was in Connecticut.
right.
And
we
he just
did-
looked at your OB records because they couldn't actually run your own tests.
Right. At
Right.
that point, they
So-
hadn't done their own testing. So it wasn't until we actually did the transfer, which was,
In February.
Yeah.
So then the next thing that happened was the first transfer. She was cleared.
yeah.
She was cleared. Was in February, and we convinced her to fly. And
But wait, we skipped the legal stuff.
okay.
Because that's something most people don't think
right.
about.
Right.
Because it's like there is the whole element before you even do the transfer of
Oh, yeah.
getting a lawyer, and each state has its own surrogacy laws. So you need a lawyer representing the parents, you need a lawyer representing the surrogate's family, and you need to agree like the list of things, like if it splits and there's twins, and if there's
Oh my gosh.
triplets,
all of the
and if
things.
there's like what if there's a
And then it has the scary stuff too,
Right.
where it's like, you know, what if your surrogate is like, you know, dies, or
Yeah,
like, what if
yeah.
they
All that's
have
a-
some sort of life-altering
Yeah. All
medical
of the things-
emergency or something like
all
that.
of the things you don't want to think about.
all the things
are
that you're like,
written.
really?
Read through it.
I have to put a price on this too? Like
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
whoa.
Also, and it was like, now thinking back on it, it was like as soon as she was cleared, it was like instant, boom, lawyer. That was the next step to get an agreement before we could move forward.
Yeah.
We had a lawyer in place for the previous surrogate, so we already kind of had an agreement to work off of.
But that potential surrogate was in California.
So those laws are all different.
So then we had to find a Florida one. So it's like it's a whole thing that most people don't even think about, but you can't do anything,
Until it's
no transfer, nothing until that is all agreed on, because that
Right.
protects everybody.
yeah.
Which I didn't realize that surrogacy laws could differ so much between states. Like I didn't realize like that we had to have a specific like Florida lawyer to handle like our portion of like all of that. But yeah, so we went through all of the contracts, which is, I mean, it's just kind of a bizarre thing, especially when you're doing it for friends, because it's like, I mean, it feels, like you said, it feels really weird to put a price on some of these things, but okay.
So then we agreed on everything. Not that hard to do because we love each other and we're friends. Probably a little bit harder to do if you don't know the person, I would think.
Yeah, probably.
Finally, the transfer date. And
This is February.
guess who had to go by herself to Connecticut?
in the middle of a snowstorm, which I am from Florida. We don't have snow. And so I flew into LaGuardia,
but
and drove.
But originally she was supposed to fly on a Saturday, and I think the transfer was on Monday.
That's
Is
right.
that right?
Something like that. We had to do it early.
And I was teaching
That's right.
either Thursday
I
or
remember
Friday,
this.
and I was checking the weather, and I remember like seeing all this snow in Connecticut and New York, and I was like, she's got to get on a plane right now. She's got to get on a plane right now. And I texted Brett and was like, hey, you need to change her flight. She needs to fly out right now so that she beats the snow. You did the transfer on Monday.
Which we had to
all
Zoom
in. We all zoomed in. Brett and I were on a Zoom together. Jacob, her husband, was on a separate Zoom.
Right.
And we all watched.
I remember I had to do a COVID test before I went because I can't remember if it was a doctor's office or I don't know, but yeah, so I had to do the COVID test and I was like so afraid that I was gonna get like germs or something while I was out and they would cancel the transfer. So I was like so focused on just being like as safe and like clean as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we were there.
Yeah.
And I think the weirdest part was just, you know, it was virtual, like you guys were all there virtually, but it was just in a room full of people having a little catheter like put in my uterus to implant this embryo. So that was weird.
Yeah.
And a different sensation. But
So then you flew back the next day. And
No, I think she had a day.
Or did
I
you
had-
really-
I took a
had
day.
free day
I
because
took
I
a
remember
day.
that. Yeah.
Oh, right, because
the-
you wanted to relax and
because the transfer was like in the late afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was nervous to just hop right on a plane after that. So I took a day and then I flew the next day.
And we also did get the acupuncture for you too.
Yes.
That's right.
That
Yes.
is correct. Yeah.
So you can relax and
Which was very relaxing, actually. Yeah.
But then you flew back, and I feel like in this process with pregnancy, they can typically tell about 2 weeks after they can run the blood.
That was something I guess I was a little surprised about was how fast they know. Because, I mean, for our pregnancies, you don't hear anything until you're like 6 to 8 weeks pregnant, and
this was like 2 weeks after
like
the
this
fact.
was right. But I guess the way that they explained it to me after the fact, because I was like, this doesn't make sense to me, I don't understand it, is when you like actually become pregnant, like your body, they manipulate your body basically to think it's already pregnant before they do the transfer, because they age the embryo.
We ended up finding out a couple weeks later the numbers were looking good.
Yeah.
So that's good, but then a few weeks after that, they checked for a heartbeat, and the heartbeat was not very strong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they wanted to schedule another one, I think a week later, and the heartbeat was not, it was even weaker.
Yeah.
Correct?
I think it was like not very
Slow.
strong, and then I think the next one
It was
is
just
just
not
gone.
there.
Yeah. I held it together
You really did.
You did.
in the office,
You really
and then I
did.
got to the car, and then I was a mess.
Yeah, and you called us and started crying, and I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, and then I started crying. It's like, I needed that permission, and we had to wait a while.
I mean, yeah.
It was like a few months
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
for us to try again with another embryo transfer. So that was frustrating too, because we'd already waited so long.
Mm-hmm.
So then when was the second transfer?
It was July 15th.
Yes, July 15th.
So you flew back to Connecticut by yourself.
I did.
Yes.
But this time you were like a pro. You went to the zoo.
The aquarium.
Oh, the
yes,
aquarium.
I did. I did go to the aquarium by myself because I was like, I have to get out of this hotel. I need to just
Do
get out and go
something.
do something to take my mind off of things, because otherwise I'm going to go crazy.
And we were at the airport,
In LA.
and she's like there for the transfer, and we're like, great, we'll get to the airport and watch from the airport
We were
Wi-Fi.
like FaceTiming in. The Wi-Fi there was a little spotty, so that was kind of tricky. And then she's in the room, and our flight looks like it's almost ready to start boarding. And they're like, all right. They pulled out the first embryo, and they were like, hey,
This doesn't look
yeah,
good.
they don't like the way it looks after they thawed the embryo out. We're going to go back and get another one. And in my head, I was like, how much longer is this going to take?
We have to board.
We have to board this flight. We were like, wait, do we have to change our flight?
And the Wi-Fi was really bad.
Yeah, and we
It
were
was
like,
very choppy. Yeah, I
So we were
remember
like barely. They're like, we're going to. and then all of a sudden, like, the catheter's in, and then all of a sudden the embryo,
Yeah.
and then it was like that, you know, and we were like, and then like, boarding the plane.
It's really interesting because before she's like officially pregnant, she's going to see not her own doctor. She's going to see the fertility clinic's doctor, who's not somebody who gives her the information. They kind of just check her out. So like they would check the heartbeat, and the heartbeat was like clear. It was super clear. We were on the call, and he kind of mumbled, "Oh, it's 150 or I don't remember the number, 150." And you were like, "What did you say? Did you say 150?" I remember you got it out of him.
Yeah.
That doctor was just trying to detach as much as possible.
Yes,
Well,
he was doing his job.
It wasn't his patient.
It wasn't his place to, give his opinions on anything, I guess, which he...
But we would leave every appointment. What did he say?
Like, what happened?
Know,
and she was like, I tried to get it out. You know? Yeah. But it was all good. And
you had to drive for those appointments because you did several. You had to drive like 45 minutes.
I did, yeah. Because it's not,
It's Orlando. It's like huge.
We didn't have like our just pick of the litter when it came to fertility clinic options. So it was just like, that's where it was.
And there were a couple of appointments, more than a couple, probably 3 or 4 appointments that you went there?
There were several. They call them monitoring appointments, and there were several because
And
you have to go to them
every
before the embryo transfer to make sure my body is like looking like it needs to be
with the hormones,
right, to have the transfer done. And then afterwards, like they just, I can't even count how many times they took blood from
She
me.
went a lot for blood.
And I remember you going into maybe a couple points and being like, you drew blood last week. Like, can we not today? And they're like, no, we have to.
Oh my gosh. And my poor arms, like sometimes I would like have bruises and I was just like, which one do you want? Which is better? I don't know.
And also at this point you were still on the hormones, is that correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then until they actually said that she was pregnant, that was when she could finally stop taking the hormones, is that correct?
Yeah, I took the hormones pretty much the majority of the first trimester.
Right. That's right.
Because it wasn't until we got released to my OB that we were finally able to stop taking them.
That's right. And so then the second trimester starts at, what did they say, 13 weeks and 4 days? Didn't they give us an exact... Somebody gave us like this exact number at one point, and it was something like that. Anyways.
Well, we got pregnant.
Yeah, we got pregnant.
And we were so excited.
We were so excited.
Yes. We were so excited. And then...
and the due date is my mom's birthday. It was like this whole day. I was like, oh my god, it's my mom's birthday.
That's right.
Like, we're all excited. Yeah.
But then, has there been any surprises over the last 9 months for you, like carrying the baby? And you've talked to us a little bit about some of the things that surprise you.
I don't know they're like necessarily surprises, but every pregnancy is different. So I think it's just like in terms of what happened with my body during my previous pregnancies versus this pregnancy, like there were definitely some differences. The hormones were not fun, for sure. I was very excited when those were done.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because it's just unpleasant. We had a combination of, pills and shots and different things. So it was really nice to be able to stop that because I had never experienced that part of pregnancy before because I didn't have issues getting pregnant prior. So that was definitely a different experience for me.
And you had to do it twice.
Yes.
Which was not fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then I don't know, what other surprises?
Well, you were saying that like your maternal connection doesn't feel quite as strong.
I guess so. I went into this, and we talked to the fertility doctor before we even went through the embryo transfer about, how I would handle, the pregnancy and, the baby not being mine and everything like that. And I always had a very clear line in my head of this is not my baby. Like there's no biological attachment here. So I think setting myself up for that maybe led towards this, but I was expecting to kind of have like almost maternal instinct like I did with my kids, and I haven't had that. It's been very much like one of my friends is pregnant and I'm so excited and happy for them, but it's not my baby, so it's like I'm not like super maternal about it, but So it's like that, but at the same time, it's
It's in
happening
your
in
body.
my body. So it's weird. It's kind of a different experience for me.
Last question. Why? Why would you want to be a surrogate? What was your reason? Because I think a lot of people are probably like, what? Like you said, like you must love being pregnant is like an assumption most people make. Is that why?
No. No, I did not like being pregnant. There are people who have beautiful, magical pregnancies and love being pregnant and great for them. I was not one of those people. I'm a very petite person, so my torso is not big. Like, I have very limited room for babies. And I had really rough pregnancies with my kids. I forget what that thing is called, but basically I had like the morning sickness that was like so severe that you were just nonstop throwing up all the time. I was almost hospitalized. This, like, my 12-year-old was like, why would you do it? Like, it sounds so painful. Why would you do this? And it's just like, you guys were worth it. Like, I had you. It wasn't pleasant. I didn't enjoy the pregnancy, but you guys were totally worth it. And it's worth it to bring this baby into the world for Fred and Steven too. Because they're amazing. They're gonna make such good daddies.
This is so amazing.
So grateful for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
I'm so excited.
and to Maverick, when you watch this, because you will see this one day,
Yes.
this is the person